Hello, this is Jeff Byers. Welcome back. This is Andy255, and we are working on our simulation, Rube Goldberg machine simulation. So we've got everything named, we've got everything, we put materials on everything, and everything looks good. I've already ran a simulation, so there's a couple things I'm going to get rid of because they're just there's the simulation, they just won't work with simulation. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have to revise things, and so what I would have you guys do is go ahead and put the catapult and the funnel and these pieces here into a layer. Here we go, and just turn those off. And we're just going to focus on this, and there's a couple other things we're going to fix here too. I'm going to have the flag be the end, so when the ball comes down and falls into that, that'll raise the flag. That's the idea. Now, before, my idea was to have a catapult, so this would slam into that and catapult it. What happened was it just didn't have enough energy, so it would slowly hit that, and that would slowly hit that, and the ball would just roll out. I could have, there's a couple things I tried. I put a radial field in there and had it burst up. It didn't look right for the speed that everything was running. So what I did was I do an animation, just do a keyframe animation of the ball, and that didn't work out the way I thought it would. And so that stuff happens. So when you do your mousetrap, you're going to find the same thing happen to you, and you have to be willing to move things around, change things, so they work in your favor, and they work and they look good. So we're just going to take those out, no big deal, and we don't need this many spheres too. That kind of, I had an issue with those two as well, so I'm going to go ahead and take these all out. All I need is one, so let's take those out, and now we're kind of set with, I need to make some changes here, so I'll show you what I ended up doing for that real quick. Okay, so I don't need all these, so I'm just going to get rid of this one and this one. And what I need to do is I need to figure out basically where the ball's going to land. So what I had to do with this one is I had to move it over so it just touched that, and I had to slant it just a little bit for it to work, because what was happening is the ball had enough energy, it would roll and hit this panel here and then roll over to the end and just fall off the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change there, which means that I've got to make changes down the line, and this is what's going to happen to you as well. So be prepared for this. So basically what I want to do, the ball to do, is hit this one, then hit this one, and then finally fall into this and raise the flag. So another problem I had was that this would hit the ground and it wouldn't raise all the way. I want it to raise like that. So what I have to do is I have to kind of figure that out first. So I kind of do that, and then I rotate it back again. Okay, so that's the height that needs to be. Alright, so let's go ahead and get that back to 0, and then I'm going to move it into place. Okay, so that's where I need to be with that. So basically it's good. The ball's going to hit this, has some resistance, and fall down on this. Now I could try to not go as much. I could just, all I need is a little bit of a slope, not a lot, a little bit of a slope here. And I'm going to put a lot of dampening factor on there, pretty high, so when it hits it, it's not going to swing right away. So it'll hit this one. So I'll just have it slowly fall in and finally fall into that in the cup, and then it should swing all the way over. And then the cup, basically, the ball will roll out. Okay, I need a stopping mechanism for this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get that set up. So I'm just going to create another cube. Again, you got to be willing to make changes to your scene, just like in 3D. When something doesn't work, you move on to something else. We don't need anything really big. Okay, alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pivot that to see where I need to have it. So it'll stop. There we go. Something like that. There we go, and I'll just place that. And this is going to be a passive rigid body right here. And I'm going to, because I don't really want to see it that much, I don't want it to be a big eyesore. So I'm going to turn this back to 0 here. I'm just going to make it the same color as the walls and the ground, so the floor. So let's just do that. There we go. So now you don't really see it. It's there. Oh, I need to place it over here so it'll stop it, and I'll put it against the wall, or close to the wall. There we go, like that. Actually, let's do it right in the middle. Let's go to the top view and see where I'm at here. In the middle of this, in case it gets a little bit wobbly. There you go. Alright, so that's the additions that I made. And again, you know, I still haven't simulated this. You'll see this for the first time, although I do have... I thought I got rid of those. It's magic. Okay. So now we're going to go in here and go ahead and do the simulation. I haven't simulated this before, so just bear with me. And I might be pausing the video a lot, so you don't have to go through the pain and agony of having this move. Oh, one last thing. The ball didn't stop, it just went right over the top. So what I had to do was had to put a stopper here. So that's easy to create. And you want to try to do all this stuff. I'm glad I was able to I think my first video was over an hour long, and I can guarantee you don't want that to happen. You don't want a video that's an hour long, so I'm going to try to keep this down low so you guys don't waste too much of your time with watching simulation, because it's like watching paint dry. It's not a whole lot of fun. It's a lot of fun when you're doing it, but watching it is not fun. It's kind of like golf. I don't know if you've ever played golf before. I think I've played it a couple times, but it's a lot more fun playing it than it is watching it, even though I really can't afford it. But golf is fun. I like mini golf the best. Alright, let's go in here. Alright, so there we go. And then I just gotta make it the same size. Right, like that. I think it's pretty close. Alright, I think it's just a little bit too big, but that's okay. I think we're good. Just need to stop that ball. Alright, hopefully it's not traveling so fast it goes right over the top of it, but we'll see. Assign existing color. Let's see here. I'll do the same color as the ramp. Alright, I don't have to combine it or anything, because once it's a passive it won't move. Once it's a passive, unless I keyframe it, it will not move. So we're good there. I think that's the only modifications I had. I think I had some problems with this, of course, because you're trying to get a small ball into a kind of small hole. So you got those two things working against you there. And once I got that, it worked pretty good, because it slammed against... Oh, I needed to have a piece over here. So I think what I'm going to do, because what happened was this piece hit that one and then slammed into this and knocked this all over the place. So I'm going to do Control D on that. I'm just trying to save you a lot of trouble, and me a lot of trouble during simulation. So the top view here, we can't have anything touching each other. Okay, there we go. And let's move that kind of in the middle, like that. So if it does hit hard here and it rebounds, it hits this and rebounds onto this, that this will fly backwards this way. Okay. Alright, another thing to keep in mind, that the default settings are really bouncy. Okay, so that plays a huge factor in how your simulation is going to look. So that's one of the first things that I change and work on. and we'll talk about that. But basically, you get it set up the best you can, and that's all you can do. You can't foresee what that simulation is going to do, and what you have to do is just kind of work around the simulation, and that's kind of where we're at. When you do your mouse, I'm okay with you actually, that's why I had you just put it in here. These things, you may use the funnels because everything works great. So you may use what I have for your mouse strap if you find a need for it. The catapult, I mean, if you can find the thing with the catapult is you have to drop a ball from this height and for it to have enough energy to pop that where you want it to go. Right, because it didn't work for me is this distance here and how slow it was moving. Just didn't have the energy to move that ball up and into the funnel. That's why we decided to ditch that. But if you want to try it and use it, you sure can. All you have to do is put a hinge constraint there, and don't add gravity to it. Okay. What that means is that if you drop a ball and you don't add gravity to that, it's going to freely fling that ball wherever you want it to go. Gravity kinds of, but you have to put gravity on the ball though. Okay. So this would be a hinge, and then the ball would be an active rigid body, and you would not put gravity on here because you've already got it laying down the way you want it, and gravity would just cause it to fall down or do all kinds of, or move. So you don't want that to happen. Okay, so we're not putting gravity on here either. Okay, it's because if you put gravity on there, it just kind of floats around, and or that falls down and causes some problems. So I don't add gravity to that, to things like that. You will have to add, and you don't have to add gravity to hinges. In general, we can play around with it because it's going to see the mass and the weight of the ball here. It's going to pull it down. So we'll just, I'll show you how it works. But I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up on that. You may reuse my pieces here because they work. All right. Feel free to do that in your scene. So what you want to do is once you get it set up, you want to save your scene, of course. So I'm going to turn that off. But you cannot reuse what I have, meaning that I want you to come up with your own scene, and do not do this simulation and then give me the same simulation, exactly the same setup, and you have a little mouse down here with the trap. You figure out a trap door or something down here, and that's your end. No, you need to redo your own thing. You need to do your own thing. I don't want to see the exact same thing. You may reuse this stuff. You may reuse it. Just put it in a different spot. Do your own simulation for your mouse, but you're free to use. I'm more than happy to letting you use any of these props that I have. Okay. So if you want to reuse that, because this is it's not hard to create. It just may not work for you, and I know this works. I spent a lot of time making sure all this stuff works. It's all clean. Okay. We're going to do it one more time, so save your scene as is, the way it is. So I'm going to do that myself. And as you can see, that I've done some simulation here already. Here we go. Okay, so let's get it set up, and then the next one we'll start simulating. So what we want to do is one last time, center pivot, delete by type history, and freeze transformations, because I know I moved things around. Alright, setting up simulation. Okay, so let's do all the passive rigid bodies first. Okay, so I'm going to hit the Q key. That's just for selection mode. So I know the wall is going to be passive. The ramp is going to be passive. I don't want that moving. Okay. Alright, so those are passive. This is passive, but we're not using that, so let's get rid of that. Darn it, forgot all about that. Gotta put that away. There we go. Alright, so then we got these little blocks here that are passive, so I'm holding down the shift key. Okay, and I think that is it. Let me look and make sure. That's going to be active, that's going to be a hinge, that's going to be, oh, that needs to be passive. There we go, almost forgot about that. active rigid body, hinge, hinge, hinge. Okay, I think we got it. Right, great. So let's go ahead and hold down the space bar, go to Fields and Solvers, and go down to Create Passive Rigid Body. Alright. Alright, so that did it. How do you tell? Well, you can select it, and you can see that it is not grayed out, but it uses yellow to tell you that there's a dynamic influence on it. Okay, so this is telling you can't, well, you know, with passives you can animate those. Okay, but we're not going to with those. So basically it's telling you everything that you placed on it is working. If you're not sure about something, that you got it or not, just click on it and you should see that yellow between the translate and the rotate Z. Okay. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is add the active rigid bodies. So let's go ahead and select the active rigid bodies, and we're going to do that one at a time. So if you select them all, you could get undesirable results. You know, you could probably do it 90% of the time and it would work just fine, doing them all at the same time. The question though is that they're going to share all the same attributes. So if you do one and you want all of them to be the same, that's probably risky, because what's happening is that, what if this reacts to the ball differently than this big one? Then they need to have different attributes, don't they? Okay, so be careful with just selecting each, you know, every one of them, like shift selecting all of them and then adding active rigid bodies. Okay, alright, so keep that in mind. So I'm going to click on that, go down to Fields and Solvers, and go to active rigid body. So that's going to add its own active rigid body. I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to hit the G key, and notice that it tells me there's a rigid body on there. And I'm going to hit each one of these and hit the G key. It just won't take long. Okay, I'm just selecting it, hitting the G key, selecting, hitting the G key. Alright, so I think we got every one of them. I'm just looking. Yep, it looks like I got them all. And you might miss one. If you miss one, you'll know it right away, because it will stand there and act like nothing happened. So it'll stop it immediately. So we got passive rigid body on everything, and so now we're ready for the hinges. Okay, so now we got these guys. Alright, so the hinges now, we're not adding gravity to it. I know it sounds strange, but don't do it unless you need to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select it and go into Fields and Solvers and go into Hinge Constraint. Okay, with this hinge though, I want it to be in a certain spot, so I'm going to hit the F key, zoom out a little bit. I'm going to move that hinge over and down like that. There we go. So that's where my hinge is now. Okay, so it's going to hinge like that, so the ball's going to drop into this and slowly drop into that. That's the idea anyway. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is this hinge right here, and we'll do a hinge on that one, same thing. Now I should have went into the option box. I realized that I didn't really set anything up, so we're good. I didn't really have to reset it or anything, but sometimes you do. You just have to go back to hinge and just make sure you don't have any numbers in here unless you want them there, and create. Okay, so another thing is if you want to problem solve something out and the hinge isn't working the way you want it to, you can move it forward or back if you want to. You can move the hinge all the way back here to hinge it from there, and it'll flap up and down. It's whatever you want. Okay, in the simulation, let's go to the side view here, or the front view anyway, and see where my hinge is. And that's kind of where I want it. That's good because the ball will hit that. Alright, so let's go to the next one. Alright, and let's go back in here, and I probably should just turn effects on. There we go. So now I don't have to go through all that other stuff trying to find this stuff. Let's do a hinge. And then on this one, the hinge is going to be off center a little bit, so I want it on center. Well, actually, let's see what it does with that one. That's the center, so let's go see what happens here. Let's go in here and do a hinge. Yeah, let's keep it there, because we know that if we rotate that, it should hit that box. We'll find out. We can always move. Now if you move something, once you put hinge constraints on, you have to select both of them. Okay, both the object and the hinge constraint. Let's look at this. So my first hinge is over here, and if you want to call it something, you can, or just remember how you set it up. You can rename those if you like, but we'll just keep them the way it is right now. And normally if you were going to pass this on to somebody else, you would want to have everything named perfectly. So I'm not going to do that right now. Let's just call this stopper, or stop 01. I can't help myself. Alright, I got to rename stuff. Alright, I'm going to try to keep myself from renaming these, because I don't think I need to do that. Excuse me. So, okay, I think we're ready now. Let's see what we can do in the next video. I think we've run up enough time on this one, so I'll see you in the next video.